We have a shocking Leafs update to go over today, and while all the focus has been on Mitch Marner and his future in Toronto, a wild new report has dropped revealing some wild information surrounding Brad Treliving and his future in Toronto, and something strange is going on between the front office. We're going to break down exactly what that is and discuss what it means going forward, as it changes a lot for this team and their future, not only in this offseason, but beyond that as well. But before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. We're on the road to 21,000 subscribers. So if you're a part of that percentage who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that button. There's been a lot of speculation about Mitch Marner and all those things, and even about Brendan Shanahan and his firing surrounding, the Toronto Maple Leafs after 10 years of disappointment. Things have taken a bit of a crazy change here surrounding Brad Treliving, and some new reports have dropped revealing that it might not just be on Brad Treliving and Brendan Shanahan, but beyond that as well here. A ton to go over. Let's dive right into this first tweet here. You can see here, the Leafs usually have management speak a day or so after players and coaches exit, and nothing scheduled yet. And of course, this is alluding to the fact that, we were expecting either probably today, even yesterday, for management to speak out, whether that's Brendan Shanahan, Brad Treliving, all these different people, and it's still not scheduled. Now, of course, they're going to speak out at some point, but this has led to some speculation surrounding, Brendan Shanahan's future in Toronto. Nick Kypreos has come out recently and say he's basically all but gone, Brendan Shanahan. But things have taken a turn regarding Brad Treliving now as well. And you can see this article that dropped. Maple Leafs considering drastic move involving GM Brad Treliving. And you see this report here. Are we 100% sure that Treliving is coming back? They haven't set a date yet for the management conference. From what I'm hearing, they're still making decisions, and there could be changes way up top. I think for the most part, the performance was good. Done a lot of good things. And basically goes to say that Rodgers calls the shots here, and they might just do a full cleanup of the house. So Darius, very interesting here. Beyond Shanahan, there could be some hefty moves, and this is really interesting.
There's a lot going on here. And just for context, to go back a little bit, whenever there's Leafs, exit interviews and end of season press conferences, they usually do it like 2 days after the final game, or, the Tuesday of that week, which it was this week. And then usually management speaks on the Wednesday, the next day. That hasn't happened this week. And not only has that not happened this week, they haven't set a date for that press conference yet. And by everything we've heard from behind the scenes, it sounds like they're actually having a conference tomorrow to discuss what they're going to do moving forward. And in that conference, apparently everything's on the table right now. As everyone knows, last season, Bell sold basically their share to Rodgers. So Rodgers owns the majority of the team. Larry Tannenbaum has sold some of his shares too. But so again, like, Rodgers owns a very significant majority of the team at this point. So it looks like they could be cleaning house. Like, they could actually come in and scorch earth everything. Again, Brendan Shanahan could return, right? They're going to have the meeting. They're going to decide what they want to do. All of this could be, for nothing, and Shanahan could return. I think it's the most obvious firing at this point, like league wide, but at the end of the day, things could stay the same. But that would be the easy answer. That would be the easy way out to keep everything the same. Try and re-sign Mitch Marner. There needs to be change with this organization. And I've thought about it for the last, day or so since we first saw some of these reports coming up. And, Brad Treliving, does he deserve to be fired? I don't think so. He just got here, but that's almost everyone's excuse when they first come to the team. I just got here. I think he's done a good job rebuilding the team, but I feel like at this point in time, MLSE has everything on the table. Something stinks in not only that dressing room, but in this organization and their inability to adapt and change. So I wonder if they're just going to go, we're going to get rid of everyone and start over again with a new culture. But again, everything's on the table at this point. We're not sure that's exactly what they're going to do, but the fact that a lot of this is coming out and the fact that they haven't even scheduled a date for that press conference is a little bit worrisome, maybe. I don't know, right? They still got to come to a decision, but by all accounts, it sounds like it could be Friday of this week or maybe early next week. And it really depends if Shanahan will be joining Treliving or if Treliving will even be there. I wonder if now at this point they're trying to figure out if it's Keith Pelly that's going to run this news conference or press conference, I should say, because nobody else will be left.
Yeah, the longer it drags on, the more drastic changes are, at least we would assume. If this drags to Monday, Tuesday, things are going to go very interesting. And Luke Fox comes out and said, I absolutely believe Brad Treliving deserves another chance. But the sense I'm getting is there could be a lot of changes, and it might go beyond just Shanahan. And this could look, again, the very top, but also this pertains to the players as well. And like I mentioned in the intro there, Mitch Marner, we could also see some changes. Whether they consider an Austin Matthews trade, still up in the air. Even changes as crazy and as wild as it sounds, regarding trading guys like William Nylander, Morgan Roth. I think everyone is on the table at this point. Do I think that's likely and going to happen? No, but at this point, with the lack of success they've had, with the way that Rodgers now, the new owners, like you mentioned, are seeing fans throw jerseys on the ice, and 10 years of failure, more than that, really, but really since the core four came, it might be a time where they just completely tear it down. Are they going to trade every single player? Absolutely not. They're going to keep some. But there's a real world here where this is not just beyond Brendan Shanahan, but they just completely change the outlook of the team. And if Brad Treliving doesn't want to do that, and Rodgers does, or whoever, again, they're going to trust the hockey guys with the hockey knowledge. But depending on how they go about this, they could bring in someone entirely new, and it's changed a little bit of the way everyone's thinking about this offseason now. You can see here with speculation over Shanahan's future in Toronto. I'm told MLSE has not made a decision one way or another as of this afternoon, and that was yesterday. And that's what's dragging this out. We saw, Kevin Cheveldayoff speak out today about, the Jets. He's obviously under contract, and of course they were eliminated before the Leafs, but we usually have some sort of idea, and it's not super common, at least at the Leafs. You think about last year, this press conference after the elimination in Game 7 was pretty quick. It was quickly after. It was Shanahan, he's returning. Pelly, making a statement about how he's going to leave his trust up to the guys. Brad Treliving, of course, his first year as the Toronto Maple Leafs GM. If they tear house down with Brad Treliving, that's a bit of a crazy turn of events here, especially given the fact that, again, we know this team has been terrible, but we saw this video from TSN, and the 2017 to 2024, it's basically all been the same. Now, again, most teams, you can do this, but the success, the proof's in the pudding here, and the team can't win with this core, and maybe they just want to say, hey, let's just completely tear it down and do a retool. They don't think they want to rebuild, but a retool with everybody, besides, of course, Craig Berube. I think he's the only constant here.
Yeah, and I don't know if rebuilding right now is the correct course of action. But again, like I said, something stinks in the room and in the organization. They have to figure that out. And if it's getting rid of everybody, then maybe that's what you got to do in order to win a Stanley Cup. I think Keith Pelly wasn't joking when he said we're not necessarily here to sell jerseys. Of course, you're going to sell jerseys along the way, but I think that he does actually want to create a winner and have that be his legacy here at MLSE. And I don't know if that's with Brendan Shanahan at this point in time. And when I look at Brad Treliving, again, hindsight 2020, when you look back at last year and the fact that they kept Brendan Shanahan, a lot of people were upset. But that series against the Bruins, they probably weren't going anywhere last year in terms of playoff success, but everyone was hurt or sick, right? They had no chance in that series. So, and I know those are excuses, but you could look at that hindsight 2020 and go, okay, I could see why they gave him one more year. But this clearly doesn't work the way it's currently set up, the current makeup of the organization and the players. I do want to give Shanahan credit because in the midst of all of this and everyone calling for him to be fired, he did turn this organization around from the business standpoint, right? Like business has never been better for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They sell a ton of jerseys. They have name brand superstars here, and he's turned the business and the brand of the Maple Leafs into something that the city can embrace again. But now with, the inability to move off of certain guys and make changes when needed has led them to this place where now people are revolting again, right? So he's got to be let go at this point. He's done great things for the business side, but in terms of the hockey product, it just hasn't been good. And again, on Brad Treliving, they could go scorched earth and get rid of everyone, but he just got here and he's kind of handcuffed too. They should have traded Mitch Marner 2 years ago. That wasn't his call. He was hired after the fact. So I don't know if he's necessarily the problem, but I could see a world where they go, enough is enough. Let's just get rid of everyone. And the one other thing to consider in all of this too is this year's free agent class. There's some good players. Next year's free agent class is absolutely unbelievable, like exceptional. There's Cale Makar, Connor McDavid, like so many players next year that maybe MLSE is going, we're going to sacrifice this year. We're going to fire everyone. We're going to start over. Maybe trade Nylander, free up some salary cap. And again, I'm not saying any of this is solidified, but maybe they're thinking some of this. Trade Nylander, open up some cap, sacrifice next year, and go and rebuild the team with top free agents. But that would be tough to do. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, and I'm sure we're going to find out in the coming days. But the fact that there's no answer yet leads me to believe that, like you said, last year was so quick, leads me to believe that there are going to be significant changes.
Yeah, something crazy is going to be happening, and it might not just be from Shanahan. It might not just be, even Brad Treliving getting fired, which would be crazy in itself. He did pay pretty heftily this, trade deadline for a couple players there, but it could be from all the way down to guys like you just mentioned. I don't think William Nylander is likely to get traded, but depending on the direction they go here, preparing for the free agency class, following next year would be, not necessarily a bad move either, especially depending who you get this year. But let us know down below your thoughts on this. Reports are picking up. We'll keep you up to date with everything Leafs related. Thank you guys for watching.